Welcome to Mysteries, Monsters, and Mayhem.
I'm Shannon Lawrence.
And I'm MB Partlow.
Quick content warning before we get started. This podcast may contain language and disturbing content, so enter at your own risk. Hello.
Hello.
Put this over here. I didn't mean to hold it.
Yes, you do. You need to clutch your script.
Yeah. I've been clutching it the whole time. It's fine.
And I can't hold mine the whole time because I have a lot of nervous energy, and I'd be rattling and tapping and turning around and all the stuff that makes you want to hit me.
Throw Play-Doh at you.
Oh, and
that. So you could fiddle with that.
I could.
That was the fiddle. That was in a care package when I went out to the last work meeting that we did a retreat. And she had a little care pack with crayons and squeezies and some Play-Doh and stuff like that. It was fantastic. And snackies. Oh, I'm a fan of snackies.
I love a care package with snacks.
I didn't tell you. I got a whole bag of snackety snacks as the Toastmaster at Mile High Con. I got that. Here's your giant bag of snacks.
Oh my God. What was in it? What'd you get?
I had pumpkin spice Stroop waffles. I love a Stroop waffle.
I do love a Stroop waffle.
And chips and these really good crackers and these gourmet mint chocolates from a Denver company and stuff like that. Yeah.
Damn.
Some amazeballs. I was like, I'm always going to be won over. Somebody gives me a bag of snacks.
Yep. Next time I see you, I will have a bag of snacks.
Right. Here you go.
Just chocolate even. Here you go.
Here you go. It's funny because as a Toastmaster, I got spoiled. But, I got an email. What are your problems? What snacks would you like? And there was a part of me, and I was like, if it had been Meg writing to me, who I know, I would have probably had some jokes in there, but
yes,
it was somebody completely new to me who I met for the first time at my picks. They were I wanted to be I would all blue M&Ms and
yes, like a rock and roll.
Yes, but I was I do not know this poor woman, and she does not know me.
Okay, I get it.
Just give a straight up answer. I'm what? This feels like demands. No matter what. I was I like chewy things that are sweet, and I like crunchy things that are salty. And don't give me almonds. Yay! No egg yolks.
That seems pretty straightforward.
Yeah. I was do you do fruit? I like fruit.
A fruit basket. An edible arrangement would be lovely.
Right? I was but if fruit is not what you mean. I like salty, but yeah. I'm bad at this. If I ever got famous, I'd be whatever you think would be nice. Because I never know. If I don't have parameters for a thing, I don't know how far I'm supposed to go with it.
Yes. When people say, what do you want for X? And you're just
right? And I'm what are my options? I swear they do this more often now. Doing medical appointments. I call them hey, I need to make this follow-up or whatever. And they're when would you like to come in? And I'm what are my options?
Yeah.
Are we looking at this week, next week, 5 months from now? What are we looking at? And they're and they always sound surprised I'm asking that. And I'm do other people just go, I would like to come in on November the 13th at 7 p.m.
I don't know. I had that when I was pregnant with Lucy. What would you like for what's your idea of maternity leave look like? And I went, what are my options? I was what are my, I said, I don't know. What are you prepared to offer? Oh, no. Tell me in an ideal world. Well, that's the wrong thing to say to me because I had a list, which I think included a daily subscription to the New York Times.
I feel that shit is a cop-out. We want to see what we can get away with. Tell us what you want here.
Yes. And I was give me some kind of parameters. Don't get me started. And it boils all the way down to, what would you like to do for dinner? I would rather someone said to me, would you like to go out for Mexican or would you like to go out for Italian? Narrow it down in some fashion.
Yeah.
Or let's go get some dinner. I'm thinking we could go this place or this place. Okay, I can deal with that. When the choices are every fucking place in the world, I can't make a decision.
Yeah.
But
the food thing. What do you want to do? Oh God. I hate when you're out with a group of people and they're should we go get some food? and then they hem and haw. So then I'm always the one person, I'm sure it irritates people, who will sit there and go, fuck it. What's close? Okay, here are 2 options.
I love that.
Because I cannot stand sitting there. I don't know. Do you like Mexican? Would you like espresso with alcohol? And I'm like, okay, here, I can't do this. I cannot do this.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe other people enjoy doing this. Do other people enjoy doing that?
Probably.
God, I hate that. So I'm always like, and then I'm like, they're going to just see me as bossy, or I'll throw out one, but like, how about this place? It has alcohol. It has American food, which is going to be a mix of all the things. I'm sure you can get something Mexican there and also Italian.
And possibly something vegetarian friendly, if not vegan.
Yeah, right? So we have options. Just got to do this.
I found, so when I was in, so if anybody doesn't know, I was just in West Virginia for 6 weeks, dog sitting. So I needed to get 2 books out of the library. I had my friend's library card. So I'm like, oh, I'm going to go in and, what kind of risk?
Listen, I love that there was the thought, I'm going to leave you my library card.
Yes. I can't remember if she offered or if I asked.
Okay.
But so I'm looking on the website and I finally found, because I need 2 different books and they're both at this one branch. It's not the closest one, but there's no fucking parking at the closest one. And it doesn't have a convenient place on the website that says, if you don't know where to park, here's where to go. Because when it's in downtown and you have to go here, you have to go there. If it's not a parking lot next to the building, I'm lost. So I'm like, it's 10 miles away. I can do that. I have nothing better to do. So I'm online and it has the Ask a Librarian feature. So I go in and I say, hey, can I check out books from any branch? Which I assumed I could. Yes, you can. I said, can I return them to any branch? Yes, you can. I said, great. And I said, hey, I know this is a long shot, but do you know a good place for lunch by the Cross Lanes branch of the library? And it takes a second. And then whoever it is I'm talking to goes, well, yes, there's this place that's pretty good. And there's this place that's pretty good. And then he or she said, and then there's Huskies and they have pumpkin dumplings. I sat up straight in my chair and said, what the fuck is that? So I typed back, I have never heard of this. What is it? Well, it's this ice cream and like, I can't remember how they described it. So I went, got the books, of course, went to a couple of thrift stores, went to Huskies, went in. There's this woman behind the counter. I said, ma'am, I've never heard of pumpkin dumplings. What are they? They make homemade pumpkin soft serve ice cream. Oh. Then they take cinnamon rolls. They bake cinnamon rolls, rip them up and put them in this pumpkin sauce, which is kind of like thinner pumpkin pie filling. And it's hot. So pumpkin dumplings is a layer of ice cream and a layer of this sauce, and then more ice cream and more sauce. It's fucking delicious.
Wow.
It's very rich.
Yeah.
I'm glad I did not try to eat lunch and then eat this. And I was like, this is magical. Why doesn't everybody have this? She's like, I'm afraid I can't tell you that. I don't know why.
We do though. So enjoy it while you can.
And I said, I will just let you know. It was a reference librarian who sent me to you. So kudos to all the reference librarians.
To that job.
Right?
You're like, I'm not only going to help you with reference here in the library, but I can send you for good food too.
Yes. It was. So it was very much like Poncho's in Buny, Buena Vista, which is a place that does soft serve ice cream, but you can also get like hamburgers and French fries and hot dogs, and not a huge menu, but you can get real food or you can get.
I liked the restaurant selection in Buny because when we were up there, we discovered this little bakery, but they had a bunch of things that catered to specific allergens and stuff like that. And at the time, I think I was off dairy. And they had non-dairy ice cream and so they had these soft serve machines and you can choose, but they had several, usually there's one non-dairy option and it's always fruit, which I don't. I'm like, that's not, damn it. I don't want a fruit dessert. I want chocolate ice cream that I can have, right? Yes. But yeah, and just all these amazing baked goods. And so we've even stopped in there if we went up to, we went to drive to the ghost town of Independence, I think it's called. And then I was like, I'm going to go there and get some record. So, but they have a lot of good places for the size of the town.
They do.
Also,
Yes.
They're very conservative. They're very like, fuck your allergens. They're
But there is
lifestyle choices.
When you go down the main street in Buny and you go around the curve down by the river where there's all that new development, that's, dare I say, very bougie down there.
Yeah.
So I think
we did drive through that. And then I think there was some place people recommended. And we were like, we didn't love the feel of it.
we looked at the, I think if it's the same, we looked at it and there was a line out the door and they had like another branch in town. So we just went there, no line, great service, great food,
Weird.
Very casual. I was like, yeah. We're not the bougie people.
Yeah. That's why I don't like ski towns.
Yeah.
They tend to cater to the bougie.
They do. They can be okay in the summer.
Yeah. But the mindset tends to be the same around. So I don't know. I don't like Breckenridge and stuff like that. I wanted to love Steamboat Springs. We did not love Steamboat Springs.
I've only been there once and I did like it. But
I liked the idea
30 years
of it
ago.
in the bookstore there. It was amazing.
We were there I think we went there for our first anniversary. So whatever restaurant we had, I can't remember if it was our anniversary dinner or what. We go into the restaurant, we had a reservation and they lead us to, and it wasn't very full because it was off season. It was actually mud season when we were there because it's in May. We go in and he's like, yes, I have your table right over here. And he leads us to a table in front of the kitchen. And I just took one look at it and I looked at him and I said, I'm sorry, I don't want to sit in front of the kitchen. Could we have one of the booths over there? And he's like, yeah, no problem. And took it. And I thought, who the fuck wants to sit in front of the kitchen door? Nobody. Tourists? No. So
No, thank you. I think, we ended up in like that spot at an Estes Park restaurant that was kind of nearish the barbecue place I like to go. So not on the main drag.
I know where you mean.
But they had like a curtain, like a black curtain over the entry where they came out and we were sat right next to it. And that was weirdly awkward.
Yeah.
I would not have chosen this given an option.
I discovered there was a Mexican restaurant in Buny that had been there for years. It is closed now. The Sun. Casa del Sol, maybe. I can't remember. We went there every year when we went, because we always went for a weekend. And one time they sat us out on the patio, which, okay, fine. Except the service was slower than I have ever imagined restaurant service is capable of being. And I noticed looking around, everybody out there was also getting slow service. We were all, because some people started talking, we were all out of towners. So the next year when we went in, oh, would you like to be seated on the patio? And I said, no, thank you. And they looked at me and they go, oh, do you not like the patio? I said, no, I don't mind your patio, but you sit out of towners out there and then they get very slow service. And they looked completely shocked and called out. And so they seated us on the inside and we had great service.
Interesting.
Yeah, I was like.
There are some places like, I know like that, Estes Park, there are a couple places that were kind of on the edge of that. I see you.
Yeah.
Also, someday I might live here, so you should chill.
Yeah. I don't
for
get
the
it.
most part, they're very friendly. But yeah, this is strange.
It's a strange business model to encourage in your employees.
Right. Because guaranteed you're making more off the tourists than the locals.
Yes. And I understand somebody who comes in all the time, you recognize them.
You want them to come back because
Yes.
that's a person who can come back, not a one-time tourist.
Right.
But yeah.
But you can't slight the tourist.
Right. Like and the thing is, if you tourist there a lot, then you are possibly a return customer. Jeff and I in Mexico have like this favorite little bakery that we go to, and we pretty much go there for breakfast every day while we're there.
Nice.
And so if they were doing that crap,
Yeah.
That's business they lost every single day of like a 2-week trip there,
And it wouldn't have been your favorite place in the first
No,
place.
It wouldn't have.
If they were.
But you can get repeat business and make some money off of people. Yeah. But it's fine. We went there and then we knew like the whole lady's life story and that she was there illegally. So it was fine. We learned plenty. I did get called the gringa by somebody, and I was like, how dare you? By one of the guys. He was asking if the food was for me. I was like, I suppose I am the whitest person here right now, other than my husband. So, yeah.
Hey, I got called a honky bitch once.
Wow.
Yeah.
I got called white trash by a really white trashy person. And so even that irony was not able to make me pull back my rage. But later I was like, really, why did you even react? When really, I assume you've been called that a few times, and that's why you're pulling it out, because you know how that felt, huh?
It was when I was in grad school, when I was a TA, and one of the football players was on his way out of the room, honky bitch. I'm like, do better. I've been called worse.
Ooh, no, not a honky bitch.
It's like the guy who called me delusional, and I'm like, baby, I've been called worse this morning. So, if you think I'm going to be offended by delusional, you've not been paying attention.
Yeah.
Come on, step up your game.
You can do some research online. I'm sure you can find something more insulting than that.
Yeah. I mean, if you're going to go to the effort of insulting me, at least make it good. People out there are like whipping out their thesauruses, the saurai, whatever. How to insult MB? No, this is not to say that I wish to be insulted. But if you are going to go to that effort, make it count.
Speaking of saurai.
Yes.
We watched the new Jurassic Park movie. It was Scarlett Johansson, which I didn't even really want to see, but it turned out to be pretty good.
What was it? I haven't heard anything, or if I did, I've forgotten.
Yeah. There was a lot of, suspension of disbelief, but you're watching a movie about dinosaurs. Brought back to Earth. So I feel like you're already approaching that with some suspension of disbelief.
While I was finishing this up last night, I had Svengoolie on. Mm-hmm. It was Cowboys and Dinosaurs. That was not the name of the movie, but that was the
theme.
That was the theme.
Did he do Cowboys and Aliens? No, he does really old movies.
He does really. This was Harry. What the hell is his name? Harryhausen? His name is his very alliterative name, who did the stop motion animation. This was one of his greater, because there were several dinosaurs. And of course, they captured one and took it back. Because very King Kong-y in that way. Mm-hmm. And of course, that went awry. Because why not? I mean, what could possibly go wrong if you bring a giant carnivorous reptile into the center of town and make a lot of noise and shine bright lights at it?
Did you ever watch the movie Baby back in the 80s about a baby dinosaur?
No.
It was, we can't say live action. There were dinosaurs, but it wasn't a cartoon. And I have not watched it since then. I've never seen it available since then. It was a real thing. I looked it up. But that movie traumatized me so badly. I think that they terribly killed the dinosaur parents or something. And that was a thing from Bambi. Mm-hmm. Thank you, Bambi, you motherfucker. Yeah. But I was like, no, he's fine. He's fine. Everybody's fine. And I just remember it was so, I don't know why their goal was to traumatize children in the 80s with children's programming. Mm-hmm. Also, I watched The Burbs recently because I watch it a few times a year because I think it's kind of a perfect movie. But in terms of just pacing and humor and the people they got in the roles, just perfect.
Oh, God, I haven't watched that in forever.
Oh, it's so good. But I watched it. And there's Henry Gibson is one of the neighbors. That's the Klopax.
I love him.
Okay, but I swear I have to have realized this and forgotten it before. The amount I've watched both of these movies, but his brother who's there, he's talking, and I think I wasn't looking at the screen, and I went, "Holy shit! He was a voice in The Last Unicorn." Oh. And he's the weird little dude that's with Madame Fortuna or whatever. That was his voice. And I was like, oh my God, I hear it now. But truly, I watch The Last Unicorn multiple times a year. It's the one cartoon I still watch like that because I loved it. It was my happy movie. But how did I not realize? Probably because I liked Henry Gibson. And whenever he was there, I was like, yay, Henry Gibson.
Did you watch, I can't remember, I know you answered me earlier on this. Did you watch Nurse Jackie?
Yeah.
Okay. So there's a recurring character, not every episode, but there's a recurring character named God. He's the crazy guy across the street yelling out the window, and he thinks he's God. So the first time I see this character, I'm like, holy shit, is that Steve Buscemi? It's not. Once you see him up close, you go, it's not. But out of the corner of your eye, you go, God damn, he kind of resembles. It's Steve Buscemi's brother. I
Really?
Because Steve Buscemi directed Nurse Jackie.
He did?
Right?
I binge watched it a while. It was one of those things I went, all right, let's see on Netflix or something.
That's where I'm watching
and
it.
yeah, binge watched the shit out of it years ago. I don't even remember hearing about it when it was originally on.
I remember hearing about it a little bit, but
It was good.
it really is. It's just when you think this woman cannot fuck her life up anymore, she finds crazy new fucking ways to do it.
It does.
The-
It's amazing.
The guy, the dead guy in the apartment. It's just, yeah.
I do love that type of show. And they're ones I'm hesitant to watch because they just kind of advertise them as a drama, right? And
Yes.
I'm not big on. I have drama. I don't.
Yeah.
I don't need more. I want to watch comedy and horror and
Yes.
it just relax. So and a lot of. Oh my God, what am I watching right now? I did it because I have a horror series idea and it involves dating shows.
Oh, I love it already. I'm in.
Jeffrey is excited. He's like, do it. I'm like, okay, I have other projects I have to do first. But so I've been watching these. I've never really watched them before. We watched one that had a little talking thing. But anyway, I started, it's like Married at First Sight.
Yep. I've
Oh my
heard of it.
God.
I've never watched it, but I've heard
First
of it.
of all, the insanity of doing this in the first place is just.
I watched the first episode of The Golden Bachelor. That's the only one of those. I didn't watch any of the following ones, but I watched the very first episode. And I was like, you women are too old to be this stupid.
Oh my God. I just the idea. I was like, so you're okay with arranged marriage? That's what this is.
Yeah.
This is
Yeah.
genuinely an arranged marriage. But yeah, it's crazy. And how they're telling each other they love each other within the first day. And I was like, you
Yeah.
guys don't know what love is.
No,
Stop
they do
it.
not.
Stop. And then one of them's offended that the other one won't say that they love them yet. And I was, really?
She kissed him in the pool. That's just trashy. And I'm like, well, you were rubbing up on him. What was and it's so catty.
Yes.
It's so have you watched any of the ones where it's one woman and all the men are the Bachelorette, something
I
like
have
that?
not watched any of the Bachelor show. I think I absorbed them by osmosis, as you do, because they were so big for a while, and you'd see
Right.
the previews, and you could almost follow along with what was happening via the previews. But I don't think I've ever watched even a full episode. I think I tried, and it was the same thing I had when I tried the Housewives shows, and I was like, these bitches be crazy. This is such a different level of insanity and mental illness, like genuine mental illness, though. The insanity I'm talking, in a referential way, but actual mental illness. And I kept I was watching this and they're telling their stories and, I had the 4 bad marriages or this guy did this and my ex-boyfriend. And I was like, you need therapy, not a dating show. And honestly, I think that is what it boils down to for every one of these shows.
Yes.
You need therapy, not a dating show.
See, my idea for a dating show was you have the regular dating show. You have all these women who want to hook up with this one guy. But then you have 2 women, like you and me and Amy, whoever, who are just sitting there in our regular old clothes and our regular old potty mouths. And we're going, honey, let me tell you about this guy. Let me tell you, when he says this is what that means. And you need to stand up. So somebody kvetching on the side, giving them a dose of fucking reality.
You should pitch it. And then you just have rotating guests. Like with you that are sitting there fetching with you.
Oh, that would be awesome.
There's just several women or whatever. And it's just like, oh my God, let's look at what he just did.
Oh, and my dream cast would be I would want Drew Barrymore. I would want Kathy Griffin.
Oh God.
Wouldn't that be fabulous? I'm like, who else?
Leanne.
Oh, yes. And who was who played her sister? I love her.
Oh, yeah. The one from Third Rock.
Yes. And she was also on Mom. Oh, Allison Janney.
Yeah.
That would be a score. right there.
And what you got to do is you got to aim, though, for older women, like not the young ones who aren't going to actually say something.
Yes. I think everybody I named
Women
would,
yes, who have experienced it and can be like,
yep. And been like, that is not going to fly. Oh, God. Now I'm sorry. Now my mind completely sidetracked.
You're like, I know I have to plan this.
No, now I have to see what it would take to get to Hollywood and pitch that. No, I'm not going to Hollywood.
Wow, rude, Cleo.
I'll pitch it online. Where is the kitty?
I assume that means Jeffrey's in his office. And because what she'll do is go downstairs and yell at him and then come up here and yell that he won't let her in the office.
Oh.
Yeah, that's Elder Cat. Also, she's mad if she can't sit on me recently. So she's very old. So she literally, I come downstairs and I make my breakfast and she follows me around everything I do. And then if it takes me too long to sit the fuck down, she starts yelling at me like you just heard.
I love that.
She will try to trip me. And I mean intentionally, not like how people are, I think my cat tripped. No. She will intentionally, or she will stick her claws into my pants and hold on.
I love the way old cats, when they get older, turn into feisty old ladies.
Feisty hoes.
Yes.
She's like, sit down. No, I'm not ready to sit down. And then I feel so guilty if I'm getting up and I have to go somewhere immediately, because then she's just
the look of betrayal.
When you go towards the front door, when I pick up the keys,
Yes.
really, and she's like, "Oh no, you did not." Like, "Oh nope."
You know what? When I had one day, while I was dog sitting, if I was going out, I would let Muggsy out before I left, if I was going to go out and run errands or whatever. So one day I made the mistake of putting on my shoes and picking up the car keys and saying, "Come on, Muggsy, you want to go out?" And he just, I swear to God, if he could have spoken, he would have said, "Fuck you. I know where you're going." He just wouldn't even get out of the chair. He just sat there. If he could have, he would have crossed his arms and given me the finger. I was like, all right, hold it till I get back. We don't personify animals at all.
I personify cars sometimes. So honestly,
yeah.
I personify a lot of things.
It does keep life interesting. All right.
It does.
So now I have to figure out, because I've already talked about some of this stuff.
Oh, no.
I was going to say, blah, blah, blah. I've been in West Virginia. And Charleston is really lovely. It's in the state, what I got to travel around a little bit. It's really gorgeous. It's great to be there in the fall.
Yeah.
With all the autumn colors.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, their politics are fucking hideous, but the people I met were lovely.
That's the thing. People put down West Virginia a lot.
They do.
And they've never been there. And I don't even know if I've been there. Because, I mean, I was in Maryland. All that shit blends together when you're going places because everything's so close together and small. Compared to the West, that it's like, I know I went to about a gazillion nearby state. We went to Pennsylvania in one day to go to Hershey Park, so yeah. And it is a beautiful, New England in general. It's gorgeous, especially in the fall. Totally jealous of being there in the fall.
Yeah.
We have yellow and it's stunning, but that's what we have. We have yellow leaves, foliage.
Here's the thing. People thought you're exotic if you're from Colorado. I'm like, nice. You need to get out more.
Right?
And of course, we're talking about the mountains. And I ran into a woman at the library because there was a book festival that I went to. And she was like, you can buy as many books as you want. And if you buy cartons of books, which I was like, please don't even put that possibility in my head. She's like, we will carry them to your car for you. And I said, will you ship them to Colorado for me? She had just gotten back from a conference in Denver. So we talked about Colorado and mountains. And I said, here's the thing. I said, the people don't understand. The Rocky Mountains want you dead. If you look at them, if you drive by them, if you step on them, they're trying to kill you. The mountains on the east, the Adirondacks, the Appalachian, they are gentle, nurturing mountains. They're not trying to kill you.
They're baby mountains.
They're yes, they're friendly.
They're so cute.
So, yes. So, a lot of different stuff happened while I was in West Virginia. There was a Warhol exhibit at the big Clay Center for the Arts. I did not expect to encounter an Andy Warhol exhibit, but I went. It was lovely, except after I paid my admission and I was walking in, I stopped in my tracks Because you know me, I look everything up online, and I was like, everybody was very friendly. Don't get me wrong. I was like, that motherfucker gave me the senior discount without even asking.
Yeah.
And then I thought, oh, fuck it. I got in cheaper.
Yeah.
I was very lucky because I got there early and I was able to walk through. I think I got through the whole exhibit before this group of 4 people came in. Because one of the women, I don't know if she was correct or not, but she believed she knew a lot about Andy Warhol and that everyone wanted to hear what she had to say. And I was like, I am so fucking glad I'm on my way out because I would have had to kill her probably.
I was talking about those people with my husband, and yes,
Oh my God.
yes, you people, I just said it, who do that, who it's like, I am a genius and I am right about everything, and they do it in a certain way. And I was trying to figure out if it tends toward mostly men, even though it's both, or if that's just because the circles I run into those people the most are speculative fiction gatherings where, unfortunately, men still dominate all 3 sections of speculative fiction, sci-fi, fantasy, horror. And I was like, is that why? Is it? It's just, but even in school, I knew one girl like that, and that I could name right now, still remembering, and 3 dudes that were that person. But it's, I know everything more than you do. I cannot be bent. And you want to hear exactly what I have to say. Because on Joe Bob, we were watching Joe Bob Briggs this weekend. They were putting giallos up against each other. It was Mario Bava and...
They were putting what?
So they have 2 movies each time. What they did was they got 2 panels.
Ah, okay.
And it was giallos, the Italian, a very specific genre, which are really when you watch mysteries.
Okay, that was the word I didn't know.
Kind of, or thrillers, really. But bloody, and I think much bloodier than any mystery would have been at the time. And so they had 2 dudes on this side and a dude and a woman on this side. And each break, because what they do is they show a movie and they break it into segments and they stop and they talk. Typically, Joe Bob is talking, but these panelists instead, he would throw them a question and they would debate about the 2 movies because they're trying to decide who like the true giallo master was, who was the real first one, because, people in horror love nothing better than to act like they're smarter than everybody else and say, this is real horror and that's not horror. Gatekeeping. So we have this guy, here's on this panel, 2 dudes, and one of those dudes is that person. And the dude next to him, luckily he talked more than this guy, and he just clearly loved I love horror and I'm going to debate. I love debating it, and yay. So he was not that person, even though he was also in the geekdom. And then over here you have this guy, and he's not in the geekdom, and they both thought they were absolutely right about everything. No, let's not debate. I'm just telling you how it is and doing So, and she was also kind of that person, but not quite at the same level as him. But also I was like, girl, you got the tism. But it was so clear. FYI, you may not know it yet, but you have the tism. She talked with her eyes to the side and could not meet any. But anyway, and I was just like, every time the other guy talked, both Jeff and I were like, ooh. Moving on, then we turn and just converse among ourselves and not pay attention because we really didn't want to hear what this guy had to say. There was a certain cockiness to it that's it. I guess that you tend to meet more men who are cocky, and maybe that's part of it.
Well, you had that question about, was it charisma?
Yes.
And it was much easier to come up with examples of men who are charismatic than women. And I think it's because we label women differently.
Yes, I think we don't see charisma the same in women as we do in men, which means that we tend to make it a male like trait. I was just, it took me a while sitting there going, I'm going to name some women. And then somebody came in who I will not name, who was like, charisma's not a bad thing, and blah, 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 blah. You guys are making it bad. And it's like,
No.
I said at no point did I say it was a bad thing overall. I asked a question. Yes. There's always somebody.
Yeah. I asked a question a while ago about chivalry. And I got some very interesting answers and some people who completely missed the point.
So see, like chivalry again is something that is assigned to men. By definition, is it supposed to be assigned to men?
I believe so.
And then they just say women are motherly. It's like, is that?
No,
I think I missed that conversation.
I don't know I don't know if there's a female counterpart to chivalry.
Interesting, because there are plenty of women who do things for other people,
Yes.
who show this politeness, who
make the gesture.
Yeah,
because chivalry doesn't, I think, involves an element of it's a gesture. Some of it is it chivalry if nobody sees it? That's it exactly. If it's two people, is it still chivalry if nobody else sees it?
Yeah.
If it's just the two of you, I mean, maybe it is. I don't know. That's. These are the deep questions. These are the things I think about at 3:00 in the morning.
Right. I think about a lot of things at 3:00 in the morning. It's not a good time for me. Sometimes it's great when I'm being productive with that.
Oh, yes. But when you wake up and you think some random thought speeds across your brain and you devolve into, my God, when I was in 8th grade, I said something to someone and I was such an idiot. And I question all of that. 3 a.m. is when I question all of my life choices, all of them.
Yeah.
But I think everybody does.
I actually found that there's a thing in your brain. And when you have downtime, I was doing research. Oh no. Calming the default mode network. It's called the default mode network. So people should look that up.
Yeah.
So it's a thing that kicks in when your mind is not active doing something.
Huh.
And so if you're not in like a good place, that's when the dark stuff kicks in, right? That's when that dark, what I call the dark loop kicks in. Because I was totally, you can see psychology today doing some research on a thing. But anyway, that's why it kicks in at 3 a.m. because you're not usually doing something actively.
Right.
Like if I'm working at that time, it doesn't hit me.
Right.
If I'm chilling and watching a movie or in the bath or something like that, it hits me. Yeah, because that part of your brain it is a thing that actively kicks in when you are not engaged in a task. I know I had to take it somewhere scientific.
I'm glad that you did.
Now back to your story.
I might as well throw the paper in the air. I'm like, where the hell was I?
What have I not said?
Did I tell you about the battle for the last scone?
No.
So there's this bakery in Charleston. It's a fabulous bakery, Charleston Bread Company. I don't know what fucking kind of crack they put in their coffee cake. It is the best coffee cake I have ever had. But so I'm on their website and they make a different flavor of scone every day. They make different flavors of cookies each day. Now, I mean, I think they might have chocolate chip every day, but it rotates. So Thursdays they have spinach and feta scones. And I'm like, damn, I'm going to get me one of those. So I go in, I need a loaf of bread. And there are a few people in there, but they're already being helped. And there's a guy ahead of me and he's ordering a lot of stuff. And he looks over at the case and he goes, and I'll take that last scone. And I went, you beat me to it. And he turns around and he very polite. He's like, I'm sorry. Did you want that? You can have that. I don't need it. If you want to have it, you can have. I said, no, you were here first. It is absolutely your scone. I said, I should not have said anything. Okay. So this is a cute story. Fucking woman behind the counter goes, oh my God, you guys should fight for it. I was like, I'm sorry, what?
No.
She goes, you guys should go out in the parking lot. I will referee. We'll get the other customers to come out and form a circle. And you guys can fight for the last scone. And I'm looking at this guy who is, now I could say he was 10 years younger than me. Honestly, he's probably more like 20 years younger than me. He's like 6'4", and he looks like he stays in pretty good shape. And I'm looking at this guy and I said, no, I don't think that's the route I would like to take, but thank you. She goes, come on, the bigger they are, the harder they fall. And the guy is just like backing out of the conversation because I'm like, I'm not going to fight this man. So I order my bread and I think I asked for a cookie and I said, yeah, I saw. And I said, yeah, I saw on your website that you do the spinach and feta on Thursdays. And he turns around again. He goes, I'm sorry. Did you come in here today just for that scone? I said, yes, but I can come back next week. He goes, no, you're taking the scone and that's the end of it. I said, well, thank you. I said, okay, I will take the scone. I said, just to make you feel better, I don't live here. I'm a visitor. So you're leaving me with a really good impression of Charles.
Yeah.
just like, and let me tell you, it's the best fucking scone I've ever had.
Nice.
It was.
Really?
It was. Yes. It was. Yeah. And I went back later and had I don't know, something with fruit in it, apricot almond, maybe.
Okay.
Which, I know you're turning up your nose, but it was also delicious.
That made it sound very snobby. I just wasn't into it.
Yeah, no. I know those are not your preferred flavors, but it was also good. And I found an Indian restaurant. You know how you can order a dish and you can pick your protein. You could pick tofu or shrimp or whatever. One of the choices was goat. I did not get it because I really wanted lamb, but I'm disappointed that I didn't order the goat.
I've had goat. I didn't like it.
I've had it once and
I think that's probably what gamey is meant to describe.
probably.
Gamey is one of those random abstract things that people are like, that's just gamey. And I'm all, okay, well, each person decides for themselves what's gamey based off what somebody else probably said to them before they ate the thing.
Yes. I grew up eating venison, which a lot of people think is gamey. So
right. And that's I had never had it until probably my late 20s. And so, yeah.
Would you describe it as gamey?
I would describe goat as gamey.
Okay.
I mean, it was different. Now I have had like different kinds of meat, but yeah. Again, it's totally abstract what I assign gamey to in a taste, isn't it?
Because people will also say, like, if they see duck on the menu, oh, I can't eat duck. It's too gamey. And I'm like, they're not going out into a flock of wild ducks and shooting one. Anyway.
It's the poor meat.
I don't think duck
poultry is the poor meat.
Okay.
No, that was something an American in Scotland said. Huh. I don't eat the poor meats.
To me, that would be awful. As in
FFAL. It took me a second, then I was like, no, OFF.
Yeah.
But
yeah,
I don't consider much of anything poor meat. Meat's not cheap no matter what.
It is not.
And it makes me think about how slaves ate lobster because that was the poor meat.
It was the trash.
And now we're like, yeah, lobster, let's charge $2 billion for it. So
luckily, I don't particularly care for lobster.
I don't like lobster, I like crab.
Yeah, crab. Crab is where it's at. Okay, now I'm scanning. Okay, so since I was in West Virginia, I had to do a West Virginia story, obviously.
Mm-hmm. I just can keep my mouth shut. We won't get detoured.
This is going to be a 3-hour episode.
And we're already at 42 minutes.
Our gift to you is it's a super-sized episode.
Yeah.
It's a bonus size. Free with purchase. Anyway, so we've already talked about things like the Mothman and the Squonk.
Yes.
What now?
Do you remember when we had to do two stories each during an episode to make it long enough?
Yeah, those were the days.
The Squonk.
Yes. So we've done the Mothman and the Squonk. West Virginia. Okay, so hanging out there, West Virginia feels like the most haunted state I've ever visited, but nobody cares. It's like, oh yeah, you'll see a Civil War soldier over there on the first Thursday of every month that we don't pay any attention to. Nobody cares. It's just like such a commonplace thing. No, but I think it's a very haunted state. But so what I'm going to talk about is an unsolved murder, which your sister commented on my.
Yeah, I saw that this morning.
So yes, I
figured it was about.
Yep, it'll come in. I'll mention it when I get there. So I will just tell you from the get-go. Most of my info came from the book Murder on Staunton Road, The Violent Death of Charleston Daily Mail owner Juliet Staunton Clark by Charlie Ryan and Mitch Evans. And I pulled some stuff from articles and different places, but most of it came from that book because most of the articles just regurgitated the book because every single one of them said her body was found sprawled. They all use the word sprawled. Mm-hmm. Okay. I will and some people said the book was riveting and fast paced. It was not. that is not a slight on the authors because they were doing a lot of history. But there's a section of begats and family trees that was like reading the Bible or the Silmarillion. It was just, and because I'm not from there and I'm not that familiar with all the people and who was who, back in the day, I skimmed a little of that because I was like, I don't care what her great grandmother did or her great grandfather. It's not germane to this story. Well, anyway. Juliet Lyle Staunton was born on January 30th, 1894, to a fairly well-to-do family. She graduated from Smith College in 1916. And we should know, not a lot of women graduated from college back in those days or could even attend college. And later that year, she married Buckner Woodford Clay, and they had 2 sons, Buckner Jr. and Lyle. I was down there too long. Lyle Buffington Clay. Buckner Sr. passed in 1923. And by the way, I mentioned her first husband's last name was Clay. And I mentioned earlier the Clay Center where the Warhol exhibit was. That's those people.
Okay.
They built the art center. Not necessarily her sons, but their families. So she was widowed in 1923. She married Walter Eli Clark in 1929. Who by all counts was a very caring father to her 2 sons. He was a well-known newspaperman and the governor of the Alaska Territories. Everybody kept calling him, he was referred to as the governor of Alaska, but it was before Alaska was a state. So they had a daughter together, Julia Clark Alexander, in 1931. So Walter owned the Charleston Daily Mail, and the couple were prominent in social circles. They were society people. Walter was a big horticulturalist. He was big in roses and all kinds of stuff. Juliet was active in local politics and all the local civic committees that one does when one is a society person. Unfortunately, Walter died of a heart attack in February of 1950 and left the newspaper business to Juliet. So she took over the newspaper. So she was the head of the newspaper, but she didn't, I would say, the way I would put it is she didn't stick her nose in what she didn't know. She left the day-to-day running of the paper to the people who knew what they were doing. Yeah. And she brought one of her sons in to manage it. And everything seemed to be working fine. People there seemed to genuinely like her. She had an office there. She was usually there 3 days a week. And like I said, everybody just seemed to have a very good opinion of her. She had a large home that she'd lived with when she had kids in the middle of downtown, and she moved to the southern edge of town on Staunton Road. It's still there. You can still drive it. Do you know what roads in West Virginia are like? They're the width of your car plus 1 inch. That is how much.
I actually remember driving around on roads like that. I would have thought they'd be different. Nope. Expanded now.
No, they are tiny, narrow. Now, I will say we are spoiled in Colorado Springs because the streets here have to be very.
We must be able to let the pick-em-up trucks go now.
No, it's because you have to be able to turn a horse and carriage around.
Oh,
that was why the streets were made so wide downtown.
Fascinating. I kind of
so I've been told.
New England because the roads are so narrow in England proper, right? I kind of associated with it being older and them aiming it for that, but I guess not.
It's just, I was, the first time we drove anywhere, I was not driving. I should make clear I was not the driver. I was just like, flinching because you'd come around a corner and there would be a car on your side, a little bit over the line, the center line, and there's nowhere to go.
Yeah.
There's like a cliff or a rock wall and I'm just like, I'm going to fucking die here. It's like, I cannot die in Mike's car. I can die, but not in Mike's car. So anyway, I looked at Staunton Road and I went, maybe I can walk up it because I'm not sure I can.
A bicycle.
Yes. So Juliet had 2 servants who came in to work for her every day. One was kind of a cook housekeeper, and the other was kind of a general manager of the property and was also her driver. She was a well-respected woman in town. She kept in close contact with her family because this was family. There were cousins and everything everywhere, and a lot of them lived on Staunton Road. She spent a lot of time doing charitable works. So on Friday, August 21st, 1953, she went to work like any normal day and then returned home. Around 7 p.m., her son, Lyle, stopped by. At that time, he was the Charleston city solicitor, and he stayed for about an hour. About the time that he left, around 8 p.m., her son-in-law, Arch Alexander Jr., stopped by. He was checking on his 2-year-old son who was staying there. He was staying at Juliet's because his mother, which was her daughter, Julia, was recovering from a very, very difficult delivery of twins, during which one of the twins had died. So she had been hospitalized. It was a very difficult birth. So her son-in-law was checking on his son. He was also there for about an hour. After that, she spoke with a friend on the phone. And by all reports, there was no stress. There was nothing out of the ordinary. It was just a normal conversation. And they got off the phone around 10:30 p.m. At around 11 p.m., a neighbor was returning home from something. And when she got out of the car, was going into her house, she could hear Juliet's voice. Now, she assumed Juliet was saying goodbye to someone and didn't think anything of it at the time. It wasn't, she did not classify it as shouting. It might have been a little louder than normal, but she couldn't make out words. All she said was she heard her voice, thought she was saying goodbye to someone. So the next morning, that they called them day servants because they didn't spend the night at the house. So Bessie Smith took the bus up Staunton Road and walked up to the house, along with John Woodson, who was the groundskeeper and driver. And they arrived around 9 a.m., and they both noticed that the outside lights were still on and the front door was ajar. This will tell you everything you need to know about 1953. So they're surprised by this. They don't go in the front door. They go around to the servants' entrance.
Yeah.
Because that's what one does. So Bessie looked into the kitchen, and she was surprised because Juliet usually got up, made coffee, made her own breakfast, and there was no coffee on. There were no dirty dishes. There was nothing showing that she'd been there. So she walked down a hallway toward the living room, and she noticed there was a throw rug on the floor that was like scrunched up to the side. And she walks into the living room, and Juliet's body is face down on the carpet in a pool of blood. Sprawled, one might even say. So Bessie freaks out, calls for John Woodson, and the two of them fled the house. I don't blame them. Flagged down a passing car. The driver happened to be one of Juliet's cousins who came back in the house with them, verified what they had seen, and called the police. And immediately, police officers start showing up. Several officers, including the chief of police, officers from the state police, and the county coroner, all rushed to the crime scene. And then the reporters followed. And then a crowd is gathering outside. Juliet had sustained severe injuries to her face and head. Her injuries were so severe that the coroner, when he initially, just the visual examination, thought she had been shot.
Okay.
So the autopsy revealed that instead she had been violently bludgeoned to death. Specifically, she received 3 massive blows to the head, any one of which would have been enough to kill her. The time of death was determined to be between 11 p.m. and midnight. I didn't know that.
Very distinct.
That is a very, I don't know how. I mean, obviously it had to be after 11 if someone heard her speaking at 11, but how they made midnight the cutoff, I don't know.
Bullshittery.
Possibly. There was not a lot, but there were some signs of struggle in the living room. There was a wooden coffee table that was dented and a leg was damaged. So they don't know that it indicated she struck it as she fell to the floor. There was an ashtray overturned. Underneath the ashtray was a partially smoked cigarette. This was what I posted. Because I was like, well, why didn't they do anything with that cigarette? But Juliet smoked and had no preferred brand.
Yeah.
Which is weird.
It is weird because
she could afford whatever kind of cigarette she wanted.
Right. How big was the town? Was it so small that you would smoke what they got in?
No. It was a good size.
Yeah, because I saw
bustling...
that. I was a smoker. I smoked Hamels, but I would take Marlboro Reds because that's what everybody else smoked. If
you were out and bumming a cigarette, and most people said. So I went on Facebook and I said to my friends who smoke or are former smokers, "Did you smoke whatever was available, or were you brand loyal?" And most, I think, inevitably, everybody said they were brand loyal.
They did. I agreed with Christina. Said something. where she
If you
had-
were bumming a cigarette, you would take
Yes.
whatever they had.
but I also, I mean, it's my preference has switched because for a while I was smoking Newport menthols, for example. My friends are all just smoking Reds. I don't know what I was doing, but I was like, I want to smoke Red. But I preferred Camels. Yeah. I mean, I had preferences, but they did change.
Yes.
But I don't know any. My grandmother smoked Virginia Slims so long she had rewards. You know,
Yep.
you could get Camel rewards too.
Yes.
I never got any, but but she had rewards. So she had decks of cards and this and that, and it just all
Yep.
branded
Mhm.
because that was it all. That was all she had smoked.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, but anyway, because of this, and everybody who knew her corroborated this, she was not loyal to one brand. So it could very easily have been her cigarette. There were some area rugs in the room that were rumpled. Her purse and its contents were found on the floor of a hallway that led to a bedroom. So at first the police thought, when they didn't find her purse immediately, they thought robbery. But then they found her purse, and she still had on an expensive ring and an expensive wristwatch. They were still on the body. So they're like, oh, maybe it was a robbery.
Yeah. No.
But she had a
Usually.
red wallet, a red leather wallet, which was missing. And I should note, has never been found. So they're like, well, maybe it was robbery.
Maybe they just weren't smart enough to know they could get value from other things, or they didn't want to fence it.
Who knows? There were no signs of forced entry. And it was really funny because they said there was some statement somewhere that because the front door was ajar, that had to have been how the thief left. And I'm like, or the thief could have come in the front door, left it ajar, and gone out through the servants' entrance. Who knows? Just because the door was anyway. The one major clue that police found was a sliver of polished oak on the floor near Julia's head. It was soaked in her blood, and there were some strands of her hair stuck to it. It didn't match any furniture in the house and was assumed to have come from the weapon that killed her. Okay. So, which is interesting because later on in this book, they make a huge deal. The police made a huge deal, and the mayor made a huge deal about searching for a wrench. And I'm like, nobody's making wrenches out of wood.
Yeah.
If you think this came from the murder weapon, why are you looking for a wrench? So there was an intense search of the land surrounding her home. And let me tell you, fucking everything is on a hill.
Yeah.
Everything. I thought Manitou was bad. No, Manitou is a level plain compared to Charleston. So they had police officers and volunteers searching the land, searching the surrounding area. Neither the wallet nor the murder weapon was ever found. And as for searching, West Virginia is very hot. It's very lush. And so there's poison ivy everywhere. There's lots of undergrowth. It easily could have been missed. I'm not taking away from the diligence of the searchers, but we're talking very dense undergrowth to look through. And it was in August. So everything would have been in full flower, would have been thick. So the 2-year-old toddler who was spending the night, Bessie Smith found him in his bed in a back bedroom just as he was waking up. He slept through whatever happened and was completely physically unharmed.
Good.
Nothing ever happened to him. Yes. Now, how that impacted him later in life, I have no idea. Nobody went down that rabbit hole. But he was fine. Then I'm talking about the cigarette again. But I asked, she should have had a brand. Because yes, your sister asked me, could they not get DNA? No, it was 1953. They absolutely could not. So for a while, police thought the neighbor hearing Juliet talking in raised tones, yes, that is in quotes, at 11 p.m. meant that the killer was unknown to her, which makes no sense to me. Because the neighbor, while she couldn't make out the words, didn't say anything about it sounded angry or she sounded in distress. She thought it was normal. And you have to remember, this woman was fairly powerful in the community. She was well known. She owned a business. She had a lot of family. There could have been a lot of people who didn't like her. Or it could have been family that she was feuding with. She could have been telling anybody to get the fuck out of her house. Or she could have just been saying goodbye to somebody. We'll never know. pretty much everybody who had ever met Juliet was questioned, was taken in, and everybody went voluntarily. Nobody had to be dragged in by their ankles. She had a gardener, Tom Tolliver, who was a black man, and he was questioned. And at that time, I thought this was marvelous. When he was being questioned, he was asked if it was true that he was the black sheep of his family. And he said that in his family, all the sheep were black. And I'm like, that's some sass to show at that time in those circumstances. My hat is off to him. He was questioned and released. He found out later that while he was in custody, his mother had called the police station while he was in custody. And here's, I love this quote. This is a quote from him. He said, "I didn't realize she had part Irish in her. Back then they called us Negroes and we didn't talk to people like that. But my mother called that police chief and Mayor Copenhaver and she called them everything but the son of God." And that phrase, I was like, called them everything but the son of God. It's like, I like her.
It goes to show that Mama Bear didn't draw the same historical lines as
Yes.
other behaviors.
Yes. So you might wonder, well, why did she call the mayor? The mayor's name was John T. Copenhaver. So despite his complete lack of training or experience in law enforcement, he took over the investigation. Yep. He called in a lie detector specialist, and I will come upon his name shortly. He refused to release the results, even to the police. He went to war at different times with the various newspapers in town over what they printed about how he was handling the investigation. He held a press conference and had a ball-peen hammer on his desk. And he said it had been found in the son-in-law Archer's basement and it could be the murder weapon. There was no evidence that it could be the murder weapon. But, what does that matter? And the wood at the crime scene did not match the hammer. But he controlled or tried to control all the information that was released to the press. He wanted to be the one who spoke to the press. He didn't want the police doing it. They did sometimes anyway. He publicly contradicted statements that were issued by the police. He was invited to address a men's church group, and he did. But he was unaware that there was a reporter in the audience. So he said they knew who had committed the murder, but didn't have enough evidence to convict. And he was furious when that was on the front page of the paper the next day. And he said reporters had no right to go to church meetings and write down things that he said. I'm like, well, if the meeting was open to the public, they actually can do that. Somebody invited the reporter, so maybe you should ask if there are any reporters in town. So today, it's going to be hard for some people to understand if you don't have a historical perspective. Newspapers today are not what they used to be. I mean, there's so many fewer of them. At the time of her murder, there were at least 2 competing daily newspapers in Charleston. Well, when Joe moved here, there were 2 daily papers in Colorado Springs. And that's been a hot minute. So, but while this was going on, whenever there was a hot news story, after her murder, they were issuing up to 3 editions daily.
Oh my God.
Filling newspaper boxes. And the little kid with the cap on the street corners yelling, "Extra, extra, read all about it." That was happening. Yeah. They had kids selling papers, yelling "Extra, extra," because they were extra editions. So that trope has some basis in truth.
Awesome.
And as someone who worked for a weekly paper, I can't imagine the scope of the pressure of filling 3 editions in one day. I'm imagining some stuff had to be slightly reworded and rerun, because where do you come up with?
Or you had an update because you spoke to a person about this thing that you did earlier, and now it's new news.
Yes. So Copenhaver, he had run for election based on a campaign of cleaning up crime, especially organized crime in Charleston. He had very showy public raids, complete with him with a sledgehammer on places that sold illegal liquor or were illegal gambling. And while all this cracking down was going on, it just happened that the clubs that were frequented by, attorneys and judges and the city's elite got quite different treatment. The cops called ahead to let them know that they were coming, and they knocked on the door instead of using a sledgehammer. And a shocker, no liquor or evidence of gambling was ever found at those clubs. Because those are fine, upstanding citizens.
Fine, upstanding.
And the mayor had a favorite detective. His name was Bob Kraus, who was suspected of being on the take. He was reputedly brutal to people who crossed him. Now, if he liked you and your son got in trouble, he would bring him home to you and say, this is what he did. You need to take care of this. If he didn't like you, your son was in the Hooskow. Didn't think twice about it. In 1974, a federal investigation found him guilty of obstruction of justice. He was sentenced to 3 years in prison for attempting to intimidate a witness, cooperating in an FBI grand jury investigation into police corruption. So, the polygraph expert, he was like the leading expert in the nation in administering and reading polygraph tests, was a man named Fred Inbaugh, who came in and performed all these tests, or most of them. I think he did have an assistant with him. The results were never released. When the Murder on Staunton Road book was being researched, the authors requested the official case documents. And they have copies in the book of their letters and the responses they got. Every excuse you can think of, they got. Everything was lost in a flood. They were like, in the flood of 72, we lost everything. And they researched it. There was no flood in downtown Charleston in 1972. Yeah. What else was there? We think somebody took it home and forgot to return it. To simply, it's lost. And there were some people who said, as of, I want to say 1980 is sticking in my head. I, for some reason, didn't write it down. As of 1980, people were like, yeah, that file was still there. It wasn't with the rest of the files. It was like in this place, but now it's gone. The book was published in the fall of 2020, and shortly thereafter, an anonymous source provided the authors with Inbaugh's results that he sent to Copenhagen. Mm-hmm. The person with the most suspicious readings, because we all know now polygraph isn't very accurate. Shit. The person with the most suspicious readings was the son-in-law, Arch Anderson, who had been questioned by police for several hours shortly before he was polygraphed. So remember, he had almost lost his wife when she was giving birth, and he did lose a child. And I mean, can you imagine the amount of stress he was under at that? And then they're saying, did you kill her? Whether he did or not. The police file to this day remains missing. Investigators, they never had a clue. They don't know why she was killed. They don't know who did it. The murder weapon, never found. It was just a very brutal end to a life. And they believe the mayor was trying to cover up for the people who were in high society, but nobody can say, well, we think it was so-and-so. There was some suspicion on her son who was working at the newspaper because the two newspapers in town wanted to merge, and she opposed that. She was of an age, I'm not sure how much longer she would have been working at the newspaper. And it wasn't immediate. It was a few years later that the two papers did merge, and they're like, ha. And I'm like, no, people don't commit murder, generally speaking, with long-term goals in mind. You kill somebody, it's because you want something right now. Yeah. I think from what we've talked about on this podcast, the severity of the attack
makes it personal.
If it was a robbery, they would have bashed her on the back of the head and taken stuff and skedaddled. Mm-hmm. But it was so severe, it had to be somebody who had a grudge against her. And everybody's like, no, she was a saint. No, one of the women I talked to in Charleston, she's like, because I kept asking people, do you know about the murder on Staunton Road? And a lot of people had read the book, and some people looked at me blankly and went, what? People who hadn't been there as long. This woman, a couple of women who grew up there, and one of them is like, so the son Lyle, she's like, yeah, Lyle's sons dated her grandmother and her friends. That was the age overlap. And I was just like, oh, did your grandmother's? And she's like, no, I don't have any good stories. I'm sorry. It's like, come on.
Dag nabbit.
Make something up. But yeah, it just fell through the cracks, and the mayor died not that much. I want to say just a few years later, had a heart attack. Let me tell you, in those years in Charleston, fucking everybody was dying of a heart attack.
Yeah.
So, can I ask you a question before we launch into yours? Which is pertinent to nothing. Do you remember what we were talking about the day we lost our shit on the podcast and laughed for like 2 minutes and you had to cut it out because it was just
too much? I don't.
I was thinking about that the other day and I was like, I wonder what set us up. I mean, we can be ridiculous. We can be absolutely fucking ridiculous. But I was like, because we just lost it.
Dying. Yeah.
So, yeah.
Oh my gosh, what was it the other day? Oh, Saturday. Okay, it was an article about Saturday Night Live. And Lorne Michaels, when he started it, specifically called out Carol Burnett by saying, we're establishing this is going to be basically professional. I don't remember if he used that term. We're not going to be doing that. Basically, he said that they were like snooty or something at Carol Burnett because they laughed at themselves. You know how they said that? That's my favorite element. I have also wanted to fight him since I saw that. And apparently, decades later, somebody told Carol Burnett he'd said that when I wish I had the quote because he was just, I felt insulting to Carol Burnett.
How dare he?
And make it sound like I'm going to do better, which the sad thing is it's gone on way longer.
Yes.
But it's been shit most of that time. Frankly,
yeah,
I don't watch it now. I watch clips of it online.
I record it so I can sit and fast forward through the stuff I don't want to see.
No. There were like 2 eras that I liked, I think, and that was it. But anyway, I was just like, how dare you? Because my favorite part has always been that they cracked each other up because they weren't taking themselves too seriously.
And they do that.
He made it out like it was the opposite, and they were these snobs, and that was them put. And I was just, what?
How dare he?
Exactly.
Okay. He can kiss my ass.
I watched a Lucy and Desi documentary. It was kind of sad.
Oh, did it come out?
It was on Prime. It's an older one that I just hadn't watched before. It's just called Lucy and Desi, I think. I know that there's a movie with, I don't know, is it Nicole Kidman?
Yes.
I haven't watched that because
I watched it. It was okay.
It was, I could swear I remember their daughter being like, this isn't okay. You twisted this into something it wasn't. And I won't watch those. Just like I won't watch, they did the one on Pamela Anderson and that. And I was like, no, you're further abusing her because you didn't give her any say in what you did with this.
Yes. The fact that they didn't use Deborah Messing to play Lucille Ball is a heresy.
Yeah. I mean, Nicole Kidman.
Yeah. Don't get me wrong. Nicole Kidman is a fine actress.
But not for that. No. There are plenty of other people who would have been better at that.
Yes.
Maybe just a natural redhead to begin with. Who knows? But
Lucy wasn't.
Yeah, but it was sad. Yeah, it was sad because Lucy and Desi got married twice because they divorced and got remarried, it said.
Oh, I didn't remember that.
I didn't do that. And then they got divorced and they each remarried eventually and had almost 30-year marriages on either end. So technically, they were married to other people longer than each other.
I remember seeing a picture of the two of them well into their probably 70s in a swimming pool playing with, I think they had to have been playing with their grandchildren because obviously their kids would have been grown by then. And it was I can't remember even where I saw it, what magazine or whatever, but the quote under the little caption was something about how even though they were no longer married, they still got along and they still cared very deeply for their grandchildren and got along fine. And
yeah, well, he couldn't handle that she was the power in it.
Yeah.
And I think they both kind of acknowledged that, but they both seem to still love each other when they,
or at least care for each other.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that was in there, like her talking to him because the daughter called and said, hey, this is it.
Yeah.
If you want to say something, now's the time. And so that was sad. They loved each other, but they shouldn't be married. Right?
We see that.
Yeah. But it was really good. So if you get an itch, that's on there. I could swear it was a prime. I can't guarantee you. Okay, so I am doing, this has many names. The Annecy murder / Chevaline massacre / French Alps shootings, which is actually how it was in most places. Annecy is a lake. Chevaline, I think, is the nearby city or something. On September 5th, 2012, on a lay-by, or what we would call a pull-off, on a forest road near Lake Annecy in the French Alps, a cyclist, Brett Martin, who was a retired Royal Air Force pilot from England, made his way over a bridge, the river roaring below him. He came around a corner where he saw a young girl wandering around before falling at his feet in front of a wine-colored BMW that had backed up so rapidly in the road that it had left tire marks before running up onto a slope where it also left gouges in the dirt of the embankment about 2 feet up. When he stopped to help, he discovered 4 dead bodies, 3 in the car and 1 beside it. The car was running, the doors locked, and the rear wheels were spinning in the sand still, according to some articles.
Yeah.
Right. Martin had not heard the gunshots, though it was clear the shooting had just occurred. It was thought the sound of the water had covered the noise. They also said it had a silencer, but there were like 25 shots fired. And from my very limited knowledge of silencers, they don't last like that. So that's why a lot of the theories were just, hey, he was going over this roaring water.
Which can be very loud.
And things echo differently. They're in the Alps.
Yeah.
So who knows? Investigation showed that one victim was a 45-year-old local Frenchman, Sylvain Mollier, had been out cycling and had actually passed Martin only moments before. This is how tight this all happened.
Was he one of the people in the car?
He's the one outside the car. Mm-hmm.
Damn.
So he had passed him on going up a hill or something like that. He had been shot 7 times.
Shit.
The other 3 murder victims were 47-year-old Saad Al-Hali, and I'm just going to tell you, there's French, there's Iraqi, there's Belgian. Okay. Everybody goes to the French Alps, apparently. So things are going to get just butchered. I started looking things up for pronunciations, and I said, fuck this noise. I'm not going to remember this tomorrow. So anyway... Saad Al-Hali, who was an Iraqi-born British engineer, his wife, 47-year-old Iqbal, and her mother, 74-year-old Suhaila Al-Alaf. Saad had been shot 3 times, 2 of those in the head through the windshield. His wife and mother-in-law had both been shot twice in the head, apparently using a type of shot, they kept coming back to this and everything, called the plunging fire shot. Feel free to look that shit up, but it's a military style of firing from above.
Okay.
To ensure that you like kill somebody, basically.
Okay.
Gunshots had actually been fired inside the car to finish off the women, like his arm in the car or something like that.
Okay.
Fired from inside, not that he was inside the car.
Okay.
7-year-old Zainab, the girl who had been in a daze when he came up, had been shot in the shoulder once, then beaten in the head with a gun, likely because the killer's weapon had jammed.
Ugh.
Martin got her to lie on her side until emergency responders arrived, a set of actions that likely saved her life. Despite his quick thinking, she ended up having multiple surgeries immediately after the incident, but she did survive.
Good.
It would be at least 8 hours later when specialized authorities arrived to process the scene that 4-year-old Zina was found alive, but in shock, tucked under her dead mother's legs, covered by her skirt. Nobody found her for 8 hours because they didn't want to mess with the crime scene inside the car.
God.
And she didn't make a fucking sound because she was a 4-year-old who had been in the car when all these people got
were
murdered.
Killed. Oh my God.
8 hours.
That's horrific.
It is. But she did also survive. The gun used was a Luger P06, an old pre-World War II semi-automatic weapon that held 8 rounds in each magazine. Clearly, he had switched out the magazines, right? There was glass in 2 different places, leading investigators to think that the first shots were fired in one spot before the car then reversed for them to get away, and then he finished it when they got stuck. Martin had seen a green or gray 4-wheel drive car and a motorcycle leaving the general area of the shooting as he approached it. It was reported that the motorcycle rider had a goatee and a weird helmet. I never saw what that meant. I also never saw necessarily... It said it was reported, the motorcycle rider, the blah, blah. They never said Martin said that, but I'm assuming Martin said that because I didn't hear of any other witnesses. The articles on that, there were so many, and again, it's the same thing over and over. And I'm like, you guys aren't addressing the actual things I want you to address. You're just copying.
You're not telling me the things I want to know.
Right. The investigation ended up being a joint effort between the British and the French because pretty much the French were like, you're going to find out what this was about in Britain because it was about Al-Hali, right? They just figured it was somebody after him. So that makes me question how much they put into it on their end.
Mm-hmm.
Even so, it was chaotic with several strange discoveries and suspects. Saad had ended up in England in the 1970s because his father, also an engineer, had a falling out with Saddam Hussein's Ba'ath political party, which was in power from 1968 to 2003. I had to go look it up. Crazily, the ideology was considered a combination of, quote, Arab nationalism, Arab socialism, republicanism, and anti-imperialism. That's how they described Hussein's government. But anyway, he was part of, like, I believe he was a supporter and working for Hussein, but had a falling out.
Okay.
And so they impounded his business and everything, and who knows what would have happened after that.
Okay.
And so he fled with his family to the UK. Saad was a teenager at the time.
Okay.
Yeah. Saad opened his own aeronautics business that worked on various contracts, such as Airbus. And people attached that to planes, but they also did defense type contracts and other things. He was a director of a company that did aerial photography and surveying. He'd also previously worked for a satellite technology company and a national laboratory. He had visited a bank in Geneva before the trip to the Alps, and it was claimed he had access to some of Hussein's bank accounts, but I couldn't find anything that gave that credence. But he did go to this bank account. He did have a lot of money in it, apparently, in Geneva. Yeah. It was claimed during the early investigation that he and his brother had been on a watch list, basically, during the Gulf War in the UK, but that was later disproven.
Okay.
I don't know if his brother was on, but he was an accountant. So I think that was people saying because he was, they were Iraqi.
Yes.
Another element police looked at was a supposed feud between Saad and his brother Zaid over their father's fairly large inheritance. Apparently, it was at least a few million. A family member even produced a letter from Zaid saying he had cut his brother out because he was a control freak and underhanded. They theorized that Zaid had hired a contract killer to take care of the problem. However, Zaid went directly to the police when he found out and told them there was no rift. Then it was discovered that Zaid had tried to fake a signature from their dead father to withdraw money. He volunteered to do a lie detector test. He was arrested in 2013, but eventually let go and not pursued again. So apparently there was no evidence. Investigators suggested that the killer had a professional background due to the very calm, methodical way the family were killed and the plunging shot used. However, the way the cyclist was killed, a frenzy of 5 to 7 shots, though I believe he was also finished with headshot at least, led them in the opposite direction, as did the weapon used. A professional shouldn't have lost it and killed an innocent bystander. It was figured that he had tried to intervene, perhaps, but with his body being so close to the car. But if you're on a bicycle, are you really... I don't know. And why beat a child? That's not professional.
No, but if you... So my thought is you don't want to leave a witness. That's why they killed the cyclist.
Yes.
And he hadn't planned it, so he had to do it on the fly, thus all the things.
Either he ran out of ammo or it jammed or whatever.
And that's why he
But also
beat
the violent, she was beaten a lot. Enough to need surgeries, multiple. That didn't seem professional.
No. Yes.
Yeah. So speaking of that child, how was she wandering outside a locked vehicle?
Yeah.
So I did read something. There was a French officer who had theories. And if I remember, I'll say what he thought about this crime scene years later when he was in an article that I found. But anyway, there was some mystery about the mother-in-law in the beginning, and officials weren't initially sure who she was. She possessed both a Swedish and an Iraqi passport. There were insinuations that a tracking device was in her laptop, but those seemed to have been unfounded. I couldn't find anything more, but there was reference to it multiple times. I'm like, what? Interestingly, Iqbal's ex-husband, an American dentist, she was a dentist as well, died the same day as the murders from a heart attack. Police determined this had nothing to do with the crime, but I find that fascinating.
Yeah.
But really, who's going after dentists? Police also had to consider that the cyclist, Molière, was actually the intended victim. The Al-Halis were on vacation and a long drive from where they were camping that day, so it was wondered how someone could have found them and set up an ambush. To begin with, this wasn't a place they'd planned to go. Apparently, they had all said to the 7-year-old, do you want to go swim or do you want to go to this place? And she'd chosen that place. Maya was a local and regularly rode his bike in the area, so it might make more sense for him to be ambushed and targeted in that area.
Was there any reason why he would be ambushed?
So we'll touch a little bit on some stuff. He worked for a company called Areva, which dealt with nuclear power and was a multinational group. But when they looked into that, he was just a welder and had nothing to do with any top secret nuclear stuff as far as they could find. Unless he stumbled across something. I mean, isn't that the basis of a billion action flicks?
Yes.
In 2014, some new things came up. First, a police sketch was made of the motorcycle driver and a local man was looked at. He was a weapons collector and an ex-cop, but his DNA didn't match some samples found in the vehicle. And annoyingly, that's really the only reference I ever saw to them finding DNA that I assume they decided was not
I wonder how
the families.
I wonder how the shooter left DNA.
Right. Like, did you cut yourself? Did you
drop a glove?
I have worked with the gun, and depending on the type, I pinched myself with it. But somebody knew what they were doing. They wouldn't. There was also an French Foreign Legion soldier, Patrice Minigaldo, who committed suicide that year after.
Mm-hmm.
He had not been a suspect, but police thought he might have committed suicide because of his guilt. So then they really looked at him. He had been spoken to by police a couple months before because he was having a long-term affair with Moliere's sister and was acquainted with his wife. No proof was found of him having any involvement. But I think they talked to him in April and he committed suicide in June.
Wow.
If I'm remembering right. Also under consideration, of course, was that this was a random mentally unstable person who killed strangers who were lucky enough, right, to converge at that given
happens.
time.
It does happen.
Yep. In 2015, they found the actual motorcyclist who had been on site and were able to eliminate him as both a suspect and a witness. He had not associated the drawing they were putting out, the police sketch, with himself. He had been told to leave the park because the area of it was blocked, and so he'd just been leaving, right? So he just didn't think they were talking about him. He hadn't seen anything. In 2017, a man thought to be a serial killer who they confidently felt had killed a young girl and an ex-soldier was under consideration for these murders. But I was like, nothing he did that I looked up had anything whatsoever to do with killing, like just spraying people with bullets. That's not what he did. In 2020, a British forensic psychologist profiled the killer, saying he was probably 30 to 40 years old, single, had a criminal record, and a bit of a failure in life and his job. He was thought to have likely served in the military, to have a personality disorder, and to have been abused or had a head injury, but that's the going thing for, yes. Mm-hmm. In 2022, it became a cold case. Around this time, they also doubled down on it being related to Saad's work, stating that he did sensitive work in Iraq and was possibly involved in some form of espionage. So apparently he still had contracts there or something. I don't know. A lot of it's hinted at, no real concrete information. A French investigator would later say they had zero intelligence from any communities that this could be true. They were not hearing any talk about this being related to anything. In 2023, they went to a French military expert who said the killer definitely had military background, likely Swiss, not French. And the gun was Swiss-made, which further backed this up. They felt he was advanced military or paramilitary because these weren't things that they taught general, like police and military, especially not in France. But for Swiss folks, they did do this in those advanced military operations, including the plunging shot that they kept talking about as such a big fucking deal. They felt that something had happened to destabilize him. Destabilize in quotes. This expert felt the victims were all randomly targeted, though. An Iraqi man claimed while in prison that he was hired to kill Iraqis living in the UK, that he'd been paid a large sum of money to kill Iraqis living in the UK. But there was no evidence of this or that it being related. And also, this wasn't the UK.
Okay, there's that.
So, like, you had all these opportunities there, but you went, I'm waiting until they go to the French Alps. So they were on holiday. He was not in France at the time of the killings, which took him out.
Right, which further complicates this theory.
Yes, there's just so many. It's been considered that the same killer was also responsible for the murder of a Belgian man in 2011. Xavier Balagant was a 29-year-old lab technician at a pharmaceutical company and had pulled over at a rest stop about 100 miles from this massacre. He'd also, both families had been out camping. He was killed with a Swiss weapon used in World War II, a Schmidt-Rubin K31 rifle. It was 2 a.m. and he was shot while walking to the bathroom with 3 shots in his stomach and 1 finishing shot to the head. This last shot was the same type seen in the other murders. Again, plunging, blah, blah, blah. His 2 children, I heard that, I read that so many times. His 2 children in the back of the car were spared. Like, they weren't impaired. They were asleep.
Wow.
Police investigating his crime caused a lot of issues, though, including first telling the mother of his children, his ex, that he had committed suicide, then saying it must have been a drug deal gone wrong, also implying someone she was seeing had killed him. Ultimately, I didn't find that they got any real answers. His children were asleep in the car, right? And so they were found 20 minutes later by some poor soul that pulled into the rest area,
Right.
found this body, and then finds 2 kids just sleeping in the car, completely oblivious their dad's been murdered. That one, nobody said anything about a silencer. Kids sleep hard, I guess, but
They do.
But it was a rifle. Anyway.
Well, if the windows were up in the car.
Yeah. But the middle of the night, I was just like, okay, good
Haven't your
sleeping,
kids
boys.
ever slept
They were young
through-
kids. Yeah. I slept through a hurricane. I slept through a garbage can slamming into the side of our house.
Oh, wow.
There was a man who was discovered to have camped near both crime scenes named Bjarne Inn, who was Danish. His cell phone showed him in the general area on surrounding nights, but there's been no announced resolution. I just saw an article about it. They didn't list his last name. They just gave his first and his initial. And as far as I can tell, nothing more was made of this. Maybe they're still investigating it. But his cell phone did show him camping in that area. But I'm like, okay, but why are you looking at him specifically?
Yeah.
Another interesting case in the area is the Dominici affair, where a British family was killed about 4 hours drive from the massacre 60 years before on August 4th, 1952. The victims were 61-year-old Sir Jack Drummond and his 44-year-old wife and their 10-year-old daughter Elizabeth, who was 10. The 2 adults were shot with a rifle used by the U.S. Army, but the little girl was found a slight distance away on a path, having been bludgeoned with the rifle, causing the rifle to break. That's how hard. It was found in the river, both pieces they found here, the stock and down here, right, the barrel. Drummond was a well-known biochemist and nutritionist for the government who had also worked on fertilizers and such.
Oh.
He had recently met with a member of the French resistance and had done various other work with the government, and that's why they were like, were they targeted? A local farmer, Gaston Dominici, who owned the land adjacent to the lay-by where they'd been pulled over and been murdered, and who was the father of the boy who found the bodies, supposedly confessed to the crime when he was drunk but took it back later. His mother fought for years to have him released because of shoddy police work and the fact that he spoke a different dialect from the local legal officials, so had no way to defend himself. And also, how did he admit to it if they didn't speak the same language?
Well, yeah.
And while they did commute his sentence, he got the death sentence for this.
Wow.
With nobody who represented him speaking. It's the same thing as, was it Miranda that started the Miranda
yes.
rights? Same
Yes.
situation, where I assume he's a immigrant. So that's why I'm like, it could be Dominici if it's Italian,
Yes.
but I don't know. But anyway, he got his sentence commuted later. He was freed in 1960 due to poor health. They never fully exonerated him, something his grandson is still fighting for, to say, hey, this guy, he didn't do it. Please actually say he's innocent. And he died 5 years after he was released from prison. So this ruined his life.
Yeah.
While all these crimes are still unsolved, the Annecy massacre case was reopened this past February, and I didn't see any more updates after that. So it's just... Yeah, there was so much crazy. I found it on a Reddit. I was just randomly like, I'm going to find a weird crime that I haven't heard of before. And people were just listing, there was this guy who did this. They thought the tracking in the mother-in-law's laptop and blah, 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 just all this stuff. So I was like, okay, interesting. Sources were Wikipedia, The Independent, The Irish Sun, which I'm pretty sure is a,
Rag.
Oh, yeah. The Standard, BBC.com. There were a lot of those, but a lot was like, because I couldn't access a lot of the French papers you couldn't get to them free.
Oh, yes.
So I couldn't go to the French papers. I could read the first paragraphs
Yep.
on some of them, and I did, but I was like, okay, I'm not citing you because you didn't give me anything new.
Did you tell us the theory the one guy had?
Okay, so I read this, and it was just this police investigator, and he said, and I hadn't seen any indication of some of these things in any other article, but this was his theory, that they had pulled over and the little girl had gotten out for whatever. Maybe she needed to go to the bathroom. Who knows? That's why she was on the outside. And when the guy started firing at them, he reversed. Apparently he tried to get her into the car and couldn't. So he locked the car and reversed with his child outside his car while a man was shooting at him, which I would like to think a father didn't do that. But I guess if you have, I don't know, you have another child to protect.
Unless he thought there was a reason this guy was targeting him
and not the children. Yeah. So anyway, he reversed and hit the cyclist. Again, I never saw any evidence that there was damage other than, but the French are very close-lipped is what I've found looking at this. Mm-hmm. The information was from UK and even Canada for Sir Jack Drummond. Okay.
Well, yeah.
They do not put their shit out there. But anyway, they think that he reversed, hit the cyclist who had been about to ride by, and then all of this occurred. So this cop did think that Saad was the one that they were after. And yeah, then the child was left out there and had to be finished off with their whole thing. And that he then shot the cyclist who had been run over by the car. But I'm just like, how did nobody ever mention he was run over by the car?
Yeah, I would think the bicyclist who rode up would have noticed that. He would have said, well, there were tire tracks.
There was a clear divot. He was cut in two. But, and I understand that cops keep something secret. And I said the French were, but I feel like they would have kept secret stuff like there was firing that occurred within the car. Stuff like that. Yeah. That was more forensic than, actually the dude was smooshed. So I don't know. But he was like, it's just my theory. And other people, they talked to other officials and they were like, well, that is certainly his theory. It was basically their response to it. So I don't know. But yeah, he thought Saad was targeted and that's why the little girl was outside the car, which does actually make more sense than anything else I can think of.
Yes.
But then there were also some things that I decided not to put them in here where they tried to get, because she was 7, they gave both of the girls journals and stuff to see if they could get information out of them. And they would have revelations years later. And I was like, because even the 4-year-old describes somebody so specifically that I said, no fucking way.
Not if she was hiding under
a skirt. So he didn't see her. But the 7-year-old did say she got something about, she thought she'd been pulled. She didn't have a lot. She'd been beaten in the head.
Right.
A lot of memory of things. But she said that she had been pulled out of the car. It sounded like, and I have pictures that I'll post. There's no bodies in the pictures, but you can see that the back window is completely broken out on one side, and you can see where the shots went into the windshield and the side window.
This was 2013.
Ish. I think so. Yeah.
So here's a thought.
To 2012.
Okay. If she was outside of the car, say she got out to pee and this started to happen.
Which was my theory. Nobody said that. Right. It's like, what else? I don't know.
Although I can't believe her mother or grandmother or somebody
wasn't out.
If she was 7 years old, one of them, and she got out to pee, they should have gotten out with somebody.
So it was theorized that he was outside with her and that he tried to get her into the car and then just ran into the car and reversed. But somehow that made it worse for me. That he was like, he was out there with her and didn't just she's 7.
Yeah.
She's tiny, scooped her up in his arm and thrown her into the car. What do you mean he tried to get her into the car if he was outside the car? It'd be really fucking easy to get a 7-year-old in the car for a grown man. So that didn't make sense. There's so much that didn't make sense that I was just like, I'm not.
Well, my point being, if he's throwing the car in reverse in 2012, would cars have had an auto lock? Could he have just hit that accidentally? Or, after he was shot?
Yeah, because they said it was good enough speed. When they reopened it and journalists and everybody else could come there, the marks were still up in the embankment. And obviously those tire tracks were still there for a while. So people could see all that. But so it depends. What speed does that kick in? Oh. Maybe that did happen.
Yes, but I'm thinking also he could have flailed and hit something and
blocked everything.
Isn't it interesting? Because I don't know if people realize this. We don't confer about what we're going to be talking about beforehand. I get here and I say, "What are you talking about this week?" And she says, "What are you talking about this week?" So the fact that we both have these two weird unsolved murders that had nothing. Whoops.
No. Absolutely. And it's funny because they like every little once in a while. That's why I did the dates. I was like, this article jumped out. I have so many articles to look at. And in ones where, this person accused and this person, I purposely left off a lot of those names.
Yes. Well, in the one that I talked about, she had a cousin. I want to say a first cousin once removed. I don't know what that is. I used to know, but I've forgotten. The second cousin and first cousin once removed. I can't remember. She had a cousin of some sort who, in the end of the 1930s, again, it was a wealthy woman who was widowed, who had two sons, who was killed in the middle of the night, and it was never solved. Now, in that one, they thought that her son had done it because her son was a drug addict. He was registered as a drug addict, and his mother controlled his supplies. He was allowed to have 3 grains. And I only remember this because I thought, how the fuck much is a grain of narcotic? Is a grain of drugs?
Yeah.
He was allowed to have 3 grains of drugs a day. So the police thought, he killed her because he was tired of her controlling his supply. And he's like, well, no, I just went to Canada and bought 400 grains of drugs for myself. So I didn't need her.
It makes me think, remember I was having to, when I was tapering, there were the little beads. Maybe they meant the little beads for a grain?
I don't know, because this would have been in like the 30s. So he had been run over by a train and lost part of his leg. So that's why he got addicted to drugs, was he was trying to deal with the pain. They also tried to accuse some poor schmuck who did odd jobs around the neighborhood, and his foster mother came roaring in, and she's like, no, you cannot accuse him. He didn't have the wherewithal. He had no reason to do it.
Yeah.
And he was he was timid. I think he had a stutter. He was not the kind of person who could have pulled something like this off. But again, it was someone who came in the middle of the night and violently killed this woman. I think she was strangled and then bludgeoned in the head. So there were similarities, but there was no, I didn't mention it earlier because there was, other than the fact that they were cousins, there was no real connection between them that anybody ever found.
Okay.
I hate unsolved things.
And yet,
yeah,
you just dropped a whole unsolved episode.
Yes.
So there's like a cold case forensic detective that started in forensics, not as a cop, that I listened to his podcasts and stuff, but he covered the Black Dahlia in a recent episode. And since I just covered it, it's worth noting that horrifyingly and unfortunately, looking at it from a forensic standpoint, looking at her body and stuff, he said she was alive for a lot of the torture. Yeah. And I was like, no. I was convincing myself that it was post-mortem.
Right.
Some of it was, but not all of it was.
With Julie Staunton, they said her death was probably not instantaneous with those blows to the head. 5 minutes, but that's 5 tortured minutes.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, that's always, I hate that. I would like to hear that they all died instantly.
Yes.
And everything happened after.
Between the hours of 11 and 12 p.m.
That's right. Right.
Like,
we can't even do that to an hour now.
Yes. Except on TV.
Except when their watch has been broken during the murder. So, no. But since we did Unsolved, I'm going to promise, because I already know what I'm doing next time, that the crimes I'm covering were solved.
And I have no fucking idea what I'm doing next time. So
I guess we'll find out.
I will probably, because we did talk about yours earlier, I will look for something outlandish.
Yeah.
I've already done a lot of, because it'll be December. I've already done quite a bit of Christmas crime.
Yeah. You would think there would be new outlandish crimes happening.
You would think.
Possibly that didn't involve Waffle Houses.
Oh, come on. I love my Waffle House stories. And I try to stay
Florida
out.
man.
I try to stay out of Florida. I try to stay out of Louisiana. I try to stay out of Waffle House. Not the physical places, but when I'm doing research, because I'm like, it's just too easy. It is. It is absolutely too easy to go, well, let me find something weird. I mean, you don't hear about weird things involving Subway. Oh, there was that one involving the pizza restaurants, wasn't there?
I don't remember.
I think it was Domino's. They kidnapped somebody from a Domino's.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So
There's been a few pizza delivery.
yeah,
It's not a safe thing.
no.
Yeah. So don't do that.
If you have a choice, any choice, do not do
Don't
that.
do that unless you have to. Yeah. All right. So it did not end up being 3 hours. So yay.
Yay!
Yay for us.
Although I'm sure everyone would have loved to listen to us natter on for 3 hours.
Thank you all for listening.
Yes, and we will talk to you again next month.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you for listening to Mysteries, Monsters, and Mayhem.
Find us on Facebook and Instagram or at our website, mysteriesmonstersmayhem.com.
Please like, rate, and review, follow, and share wherever your favorite podcasts are downloaded.
Thank you for listening and supporting our podcast. We'll be back with more shenanigans.